Sounds good.
Okay, it's working.
Jenny, will we know what time or when we're ready to go when our people have been added?
You are live. Go ahead and go.
Oh, we get to go right now? All right, nice. So we don't get to see the people that we're talking to, huh? All right. Well, we'll get started here, and I'll try not to bore you to death with this. And I have Elizabeth that's going to be following me up. So I'm going to take about 25 to 30 minutes, and then she's going to jump in. I'll answer some of my questions that you have for me right after my presentation. And then Elizabeth is going to give her presentation. And then if you have questions for her, you sure can ask her after that. And then we should have a little bit of time at the end if we have questions that come up from the chat box, okay? Well, I'll get started. My name is Dr. Joey Leftall, and I am the Director of Student Services at Schuyler Central High School. Just a quick background on me. I've been a superintendent I was a superintendent for, let's see, 3, 5, 7, 8 years-ish, somewhere around there, across Nebraska. Chase County was one of my schools. Santee Public Schools was one of my schools as well. Newcastle was a district that I was at for a number of years, and Wynot was one that I oversaw as well. It's been just kind of a fun road to get where we're at. I've gotten all my degrees from the University of South Dakota. I had my bachelor's degree there first, and then I was a teacher out on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in Montana. Went back to school to get my master's degree in counseling, and worked in Springfield, Nebraska, in the Sarpy district. Went back to Yankton, South Dakota, since we had some twins that needed some extra love. So we went back to grandparents, and then went and got my specialist degree. Was a principal at Newcastle, and then became the principal, counselor, athletic director, and superintendent at Newcastle, and then took on Wynot as a secondary district as well. So I was overseeing all that at one time. So I hope to bring some experience to you guys and some ideas of how to work with kids, especially in this population. Chase County was a district that I was at as a superintendent, and we were able to put some pretty good programming in place to see some pretty good growth with our EL population out there. So when I came to Schuyler 3 years ago, I was excited to take on this challenge, and I'll show you why as we kind of get through my slides. So, all right, on to slide number 2. Let's try this here. All right, so this is who we are. So you know who I am, and this is what Schuyler is right here. I'll just let you kind of read it. It's a great town. We're about 7,000 people. It has a really bad rap. I'm not going to lie to you. People saw this district as a rough district, and I'll be honest with you, it is probably one of the nicest districts I've ever been in. Nice kids, we have good teachers, but we do struggle with testing. I'm not gonna lie to you. Testing, writing are issues, but you'll see that we have a large population of newcomers coming in, and when you have newcomers coming in that are 19 years old that haven't been in school since 3rd or 4th grade, you're going to have some challenges, and it's exciting to be part of that process. And hopefully you can see some things that we've put in place that will help those students get better and better every day. So just a quick thing, this is our membership. I just wanted to show that to you just because I feel like it's kind of interesting to see where it's gone. 2010, we were around that 430-ish kind of group. And now we're sitting around 600. This year we were over 600. We were about 614 with kind of we haven't had as many newcomers coming in this year just because of the current pandemic and all that good stuff that's happening, or bad stuff, I should say. But we are expecting a larger group coming in once those are done. So, but that's kind of where we've been and kind of where we're going. You'll see this is our ethnicities that we have, mainly Hispanic, a number of dialects, different dialects are spoken here at Schuyler. And that was an issue for us because what we saw an influx a couple of years ago, a large group, which kind of took over our programming, and we weren't ready for it. So it really becomes a planning issue when it comes to the school side. So, all right, just kind of another one, our EL learners. Now this graph is a little bit exaggerated because there's only 2% change between, or 3% change between those numbers. So we haven't seen, you can see in 2017-18, that was the year before I got here, they saw a large spike of newcomers coming in, English learners. And again, we just weren't ready. So free and reduced population has been steady. We hit about 80%, to be honest with you. We're probably more like 80% all the time. We just have had a number of groups that they just don't want to fill the paperwork out for different reasons. And so we try to work with that population to get them help as much as we can. We have a number of students here in our district that are 21-year-olds that are taking care of families, working full time, but not filling out the paperwork to get that free and reduced lunch and fee waiver. So, well, you can see we're kind of steady there. So mobility rate. So mobility rate is the students that leave in one school year. So they either enter or leave. We are higher than the state average. This is a horrible graph. This is on the State Department's website. They need some different colors, but it's kind of skewed. So we're up here, if you can kind of see it, but our mobility rate is a little bit higher. There are some other factors that play into that as well, but this is definitely an issue for us. And let's talk about graduation rate. So you'll see we have our 7-year graduation rate is probably our strongest part. The thing about SCHS is we might not get kids graduated in that 4-year because we have so many students coming in that are that 17, 18, 19-year-old student who may not have been in school for a number of years, our SLIFE students, that type of situation. But our students are very dedicated to finishing. So we'll have 21-year-old students graduate, and we'll have them sitting here the number of years that they have to because they want that diploma. One thing that we have done over the time is we really reach out in my office here to our dropouts that we've had in the past and work with them. I did have a 23-year-old graduate last year that after working through his stuff, he was 1 credit short. So he came in on the weekends and we worked together to get him graduated. So what we have is we have kids that are willing to work and do the best that they can. So that's a strength for us here at Schuyler. So with all those numbers that kind of show and kind of where we're at, we are a priority status district for the state of Nebraska, okay? And this is a huge issue for us right now. We're on year 3 of this priority status. So what this sounds like, so what does that mean? The state comes in, they bring in consultants, they tell us and work with us on the things we need to improve upon, things that we're not doing correctly. And we just work and work and work. So about every 2 weeks, they come visit us. We put in place different programs. We put in place better educational leadership. And we work on, as you can see, their student achievement, chronic absenteeism, our EL testing, staff and student culture, and educational leadership, like I said before. The issue, it's a great program. To be honest with you, we're learning a lot of stuff. It's a lot of work. It's stress on our teachers. It's stress on our students. When you have 6 to 8 people walking through your classroom observing at one time, it does stress our kids out. So the other part that I want to show here, and I'm going to circle it right here with my cursor, there's no financial gain. There's no financial help. So when they come in and implement all these things, it's things that we have to implement. They're unfunded mandates. Okay, so that is challenging to say it as easy as possible. But what we've gotten out of that program is we've had some great teaching. We've had some great coaching with teachers. We're getting better as an admin staff on how to help kids and how to help our populations and all populations of students to be better and be more successful. So that's kind of an exciting part. Currently, we're in the 3rd year of it, and one of our main focuses are SLIFE students. It's the kids who are coming in, 16, 17, 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, that really haven't been in school since 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and are here to just better their lives, and it's awesome to see them. So what has been done? So this is where we started talking about programming. My focus here, so as a district, I'm in charge of all of our EL population at the high school, alternative ed, counseling, physical education, foreign language, like the higher need areas that we have in our district. So being able to have that allows me to really work to put in the right programming for kids. And these are just some of the things that we've tried or that we're implementing. Some of these were started before I got here, and I'll kind of go over those with you. But the first one I want to talk to you, I'm just going to show you these. We're going to run through them, and then I'll break them down in just a little bit. So we've started a newcomer programming this year, and I'll kind of break that down what that looks like. We added a transition counselor to work with kids on speaking up for themselves and being positive and understanding that they're there to help you. We also added a foreign language or a newcomer teacher, 3 paras, but we'll get into that one in a little bit. Focus, this is, it's kind of like some people call it a glorified homeroom, okay? But our focus is very agenda driven. My transition counselor and I sit and put in place what we need them to talk about during that week. So it might be working on testing, it might be working on their grades, it might be sitting with the student and building a relationship. We're a very relationship driven school, and that's a big piece for our newcomers especially. If you can create safe environments for kids, they will flourish and they will blossom. And focus is one area that we feel is a necessary place for those kids. One place they can go to get help, one place they can go to talk to people, one place for their parents to contact, and we'll break that down just a little bit more here in a little bit. WAC is Warrior Achievement Center, and we'll talk about that here. A lot of letters here, I understand. CKH and APL. Capturing Kids' Hearts is the first one. It's a relationship-based program where we build relationships with kids. That's about shaking hands at doors, putting in social contracts in your classroom so that kids understand what the rules are that they've set. It's a great program, and we're seeing some great success with it. APL is an in-classroom one, and we'll talk a little bit after that down below. One thing also that we've implemented is failure isn't final mindset. We'll talk about that shortly. Attendance interventionist, attendance programs, and a school-wide campaign called Every Minute Counts. Intervention and attendance protocols, we'll break those down. I got to add my alternative education program. I put that in place. And we're going to continue working with students who did not graduate. That's the outreach that we're trying is to find those kids that dropped out, 2, 3, 4 years ago. We're required to serve kids up till they're 21, and we can choose to serve them after. So I'm on the choose to serve them after mentality. So if we can get a kid who's maybe 22 or 23 and is close to graduating and wants to come back, we will work with them online and remotely. And that feeds right into the next part, online programming. We utilize Apex and UNL High School, and we'll jump into that here shortly. So let's talk about that newcomer program. The biggest piece behind that was really getting the pieces in place. I got a great teacher hired. It was a teacher that was going to leave our district. He was a math teacher here, somebody that I supervised, and he was going to try to go overseas and do some things over there. And then COVID happened, and I was able to suck him back in, and I'm glad I did because he's just a phenomenal teacher. So he runs our program down there. He's got 3 paraprofessionals that work with him. We limit those classrooms to 20 kids. Now it's not even that many right now. It's about 12 kids per program. We have a half day in the morning and a half day in the afternoon. So it's about 1 to 3 kids, 1 adult to every 3 kids. And what our plan is, what our push is to just maximize exposure to the English language. Try to get them through as much as they can and get them moving in the right direction. What our issues were here at school, where a lot of their friends were just Spanish speaking, so they would just resort back to that. So our goal was to remove them from that for half of a day, give them some intense instruction, and then bring them back up here in the afternoon where they could take they do their focus teacher, eat lunch, and then do their gen ed or their elective work up here. And then, so in the morning is our level 1 kids, our lower of the students, lower, we'll just say lower, that's not the right term, and then the afternoon we flip that. So then those kids come back up here, we ship our first and our level 1s and 2s, our stronger students down there in the afternoon to receive different instruction. And then, so they take their classes here in the morning, and then we take them down there in the afternoon. And we had them present at our board meeting. A couple of students offered to be videotaped and present to our board. And it is just so exciting to see those students trying so hard and working so hard and feeling comfortable and feeling safe to explore the English language. It's just it's been a nice plan for us. Part of this as well as our new curriculum, Get Ready by Vista Learning. That was a purchase for us. So it is nowhere, not even close to being a perfect program, but we are definitely in the right direction, and we'll continue tweaking it as we go. And unfortunately, COVID is kind of a nightmare right now. So we have actually almost that entire program and all my staff down there are out with COVID. So it's been kind of a doozy couple of days. So, all right, let's go on to focus. So focus really is, it's kind of that home base. It's where we want them to feel that family environment. It's not a grade level span classroom. It's 9-12. So it might be some 9th graders, some 10th, some 11th, some 12th. And what we're trying to do is create that family environment of taking care of each other. I did this at one of my other schools where we had, like a kindergarten, first, second, and third grader together. And it was so nice to be able to have those older kids take care of them on the playground and help if they were having troubles with friends. And it's just a great way to do it. At the high school level, it's a little bit different. We definitely want to create that safe place for students and get them into the right spots. But it's the simple things that we oftentimes overlook at the high school level, especially when we have life students coming in that may not have been in formal education for quite some time. Basic things like teaching them how to sign your name, how to use a signature, how to write that. And you would think the kids coming in would be, oh, well, yeah, we've been doing that since 3rd grade. Well, they haven't been. So we need to figure out ways to do that. How to fill out the date correctly, like 10, 22, 20. How do we do that? The number of students that don't know their address is shocking. I mean, it's just crazy. So working with them on those types of pieces, checking email, keeping track of grades and attendance, big stuff. I mean, it's just great stuff. The thing that we did differently this year was to utilize our focus teacher as our parent-teacher conference contact, and it was phenomenal. We went from 30% attendance to like 67% attendance. Ran them through there, and we are going to try down the road maybe some student-led conferences to see if that would help and get some more buy-in from students, especially on the testing portion of that. So focus has been a great thing for us. We do some challenges. Last year we were a little stronger at this. This year with the COVID, we're not able to do those things, but we did like tug of war challenges between focus classes, rock, paper, scissors challenges between focus classes, and it was just kind of a fun way to celebrate. Warrior Achievement Center. So Warrior Achievement Center is a way for students to get access to help and intervention. It's a light intervention, we'll call it. It's not what we need, but it's something. So what it is, it's not it's like a hotel. So you go visit, you don't get to live there. You get to go in, spend the night, and come back out and get your stuff done. Okay. The program allows students who are struggling to complete their homework or other types of work to be successful throughout the school year. It's really important for and we have a great guy who's overseeing it right now for our newcomer kids that need that extra help. A basic walkthrough. We have some teachers who are bilingual, so they can help figure those things out as well. But truly, our Warrior Achievement Center is that area where they can go just hopefully feel safe and take a test and get the help that they need, rather than maybe being embarrassed asking for help in class. So we'll kind of jump past 4 and 5 there. So what it's not a place where we send students who are having behavior issues. This is truly an environment for kids who need to get caught up on classes. They need basic intervention, that tier 1 level intervention. Actually, it's more like tier 2, tier 3 intervention, but we'll call it's the basics that they need. It's not a scheduled course. So it's one of those things that the teachers need to call down, make sure the teacher's there, and then they can send those kids down to get help, okay? So capturing kids' hearts and APLs. Capturing kids' hearts is building those relationships again, making students feel comfortable, building that relationship. They know that they're there to care about those kids. Right now, it was a handshaking deal. So as kids walk in, we'd shake hands. With COVID, we do not do that. So now we spray their hands with hand sanitizer. So as they walk in, we spray their hands. It's been a great program for us. We have seen drastic changes with our kids. The amount of behavior referrals are minimal here anymore. I took over all the behavior this year as well, and we've seen a larger decrease in behavior just coming from the counseling side of it rather than the discipline side, I suppose. But part of that is having the right programming in place for students. Last year, a number of our newcomers struggled, and when kids struggle and they're not feeling safe and they're not feeling they're in the right places, they will act out, and then they're sent down to the office, and that's just not how we need to operate. We need to have a better plan for kids, and we're seeing that results right now, and it's been phenomenal. APL is a classroom management strategy that we use, which also helps. It's creating an environment in class where it's safe, where a kid comes up and if you ask a student, what the answer is, they can hit the pass button. It teaches our teachers to allow that to happen. They can pass as long as they come back and get that answer from the student after he's heard it. So you're showing him that he can be successful in front of his friends. That's powerful for kids to be able to see where they can be successful, even if they're struggling students. If they hear the answer next door, you can come back to them and say, hey, what was the answer? And they can give the answer and have some success. So this is probably our biggest challenge here at our school. When I came 3 years ago, I would say that we thought it was okay just to let kids fail. We were the Pontius Pilate's mentality of, I have given you everything I can, and it is your choice to fail or not. Right now, we are no longer allowing that to happen. We have a failure is not final mindset. We do not allow kids to fail. It's just not an option anymore. We need to get the work out of those students, and I know that's frustrating for some educators to hear. I need to get the work out of them so that I know they're able to move on to the next level. If I don't get that work and I don't know where they're at and we just give them a 0, that doesn't help anybody. So what we do is when we have students that hit the end of a quarter, we fill out a form and we mark it as incomplete in the grade book, and we let kids work on the work to get caught up. So the teachers develop a plan with the family and the student, and they come up with a plan of how they're going to get that work caught up. I'm not saying it'll be A work. I'm not saying they're going to give them 100% after they've done that, but they will get the credit for the class. What that does for our district is expensive to fail students. When we fail 40, 50 students every quarter, those kids are retaking that class the next year, which packs our classes and really creates an environment where kids aren't going to do the work because they don't want to. So if we don't give them the choice of doing the work, they have to do the work. It's been very good for us. We were at, you'll see one of them coming up here. We were able to drop a number down to actually 0 for the first quarter last year. And I'm going to keep going because I know I'm getting short on my time. So the school-wide campaign of Every Minute Counts. This is a big attendance issue. We are a high absenteeism rate school. Chronic absenteeism was one of the reasons that we're on the priority school plan. We're over 25, 26% chronic absenteeism. Now, chronic absenteeism is a tough one because that's all absences. It doesn't matter if it's excused, unexcused, whatever it is, medical. Absence is absence in the government's eyes. So when you are talking about 25% and you have a student who is working full-time overnights and then trying to come to school in the morning, which I have probably 20 to 30 to 40 students who are doing that, that's an issue for me because it's not a fair plan for everybody. So we've implemented this thing called Every Minute Counts. I put it on the announcements every morning when I read those. It's a way to just remind kids that it's important for you to be here, and it's worked. We've had some great success. The other part that's really worked is our tardy time makeup. If you're tardy, you owe me the time. It's just how we operate. If it's a minute late, you make up a minute with me. If it's 5 minutes late, you make up 5 minutes. We also offer opportunities to come in and gain days back through Saturday school, which is a great way for us. It's a 3-hour program. We'll give you a full day credit of school if you come in and stay on Saturdays. So that's an Every Minute Counts mentality. Other goodies that we're working on: intervention and attendance protocols. Intervention is probably our biggest key right now. How are we intervening with our struggling students, with our newcomer population, with our EL students? What do we have in place that's actually helping those students? And I'm not gonna lie to you, we were poor before this. I don't feel like we had very good intervention at all. The tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 intervention that all schools probably need, or all schools need, we just weren't quite there. We are developing those protocols now, and I think we have some good plans coming up. Alternative education was a big program for me. I'm an alternative education guy. It's important that we have a different place for students that maybe just don't fit the mold that we have here, and give them the opportunity to get caught up, to move ahead, and to get back on track to graduate. Continue working with students who did not graduate. This is our every year at the beginning of the school year. I look back over the last 5 years and call call those students and see if they're interested in trying to get their diploma back and to work on it. We've had some great success and we've had a ton of failures as well, but we're going to keep reaching out to those kids and seeing if it's something they can do. And online programming, Apex and UNL, we switched from OdysseyWare this year to Apex. There's pros and cons of both of those programs. Apex is much cheaper for about the same cost of OdysseyWare. I was able to get classrooms or seats for 6th through 12th grade here at the high school for the same number that we were paying, about 25 seats for OdysseyWare. It's a great program. The management portion of it's tough. We have a lot of remote kids right now that are utilizing Apex due to COVID. But I'll tell you, it's been great. It's been great. And I'm going to wrap up here in about 3 minutes. So we're going to jump into So What Happened. I'm just going to show you some of our results. So unexcused absences data by month. Okay, so here we go. So we're talking 2016 is blue over here. That's pretty good. There's some reasons why that was a little bit lower, but we'll talk about that later. Then you saw some unexcused absences here in 2017, jumped in 18, 19, and this was after our intervention that we had. So you can see we saw some pretty good growth there. And that was kind of across the board. You'll see December is a rough month for us, and it just is. We have a lot of students that leave the country. We have a number of students that leave the 2 weeks before break, and it's just how it works. CSI worked with it. So we've seen some success there. This year, of course, we're going to see this back up to about right here. And we have just some COVID related issues that, it's just going to be part of what the data does for us. Our tardy data, and you can see across the board here, where there's no green, that means there was no tardies. So we made those all up and we're able to recover that time back. And even not with the recovery part, we saw a drastic reduction in the numbers of tardies. It just became a focus for kids. So it was good. Number of students failing per quarter, you can see down here, quarter one, we had 0, 19, 62, a lot. Why was that? We had COVID. And so those are still, that's actually down now to about probably 20-ish. But we're still working with them through this quarter. In December, after we get the incompletes finalized from then, we will throw them onto an Apex course and they will finish those courses on Apex. So in number of classes, the same type of way. Oops, he jumped out of there. Let me jump back in. I hit the wrong button. Sorry, everybody. We'll just keep going. Give me 1 second, everybody. Okay, we'll talk about some ELPA growth. You can see with the ELPA 21, when our ELs were just without our newcomers program, this is the stuff we implemented last year. We saw some pretty good growth with our kids. So exciting there. Here's our chronic absenteeism. You can see in 16, 17, we were 21.48, 26.21, 25.21 in 18, 19. And when we got kicked out, we were sitting at about 16. So we were doing a pretty good job of getting there, and we just kind of fell apart with COVID. The red part right here is your total average absence. This is one that we really like to track. You can see that steadily decreases down the line. So I think that was all I had. All right. Were there any questions on that? That was the end of my presentation. Just wanted to show that there are a number of programs that we're trying to implement with our newcomers and our EL population, and some of our other struggling programs that you can really make a difference with kids. So there we go. I'll just jump back in here. Any questions that we had? I'm going to jump out of here. Let's see. Our County, Thompson, let's see. Oh, we got a lot of people here. Denise is here. Okay, we'll jump. And then I'm going to push this over to Elizabeth and have her kind of start her presentation now. If you have any questions, everybody, just throw them into the chat and I'll try to answer them for you. But I appreciate the opportunity to show you the good stuff we have here at Schuyler.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I hope you hear me. I believe you can hear me. My name is Elizabeth Ajongo. I work at Heartland Family Service. I've been working for this agency for almost 10 years, since February of 2001. I came here as a refugee from Sudan, through Egypt, through the United Nations office. I came here with my husband and my son, but now I have other 2 children. I am a mom of 3 children and I have a husband. I'm a social worker. I got a BSW from UNO, and then I got my master's from Bellevue University. I did leadership and coaching. And then I got an associate degree back then from MCC, which is a community college. So today I'm going to talk about refugees, immigrants. There is a little bit of like difference, but you know, we go through like the same challenges and the same issues when we come to America or when we go to a new country. So as a refugee, I'm not an expert, but I lived it. I'm a refugee myself and I lived it. So I can talk about refugees, and I work for refugees and I deal with refugees, and you know, I am in the community of refugees. So I hope you're gonna understand my accent, African accent. I will try to talk loudly as I could, and feel free to ask questions at the end of the day. I will repeat myself so that you guys get my message and all of that. My accent is my identity. I've been here for almost 20 years, but I don't want to change my accent. Guess what? Some people who came with me to this country, their accent is different now. You cannot even know they came from Africa. But I have to keep this accent. It's my identity. So next slide, please. Are you there? Okay. Okay. So speaking of refugees, maybe many of you already know that Nebraska is like, you know, it's like another country or another place for refugees. Like, it's like a welcoming, let me put it this way. It's like a welcoming place for refugees. So in Nebraska, we have, it's like, you know, the way we look at it is like the middle of elsewhere or everywhere, okay? So refugees who being resettled or refugees who came in Nebraska since 1999 to 2020, they came from these countries. Sudan and South Sudan back then was like one country, but I would just put it this way. Sudan, South Sudan, Burma, Bhutan, Somalia, Congo, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Eritrea, from Burundi, from Liberia, and other African countries and Asian countries. So for example, we Sudanese or South Sudanese, we started to come in 1999. We had a war in the country. And then in 1998, the situation went worse than ever. Then the United Nations office was helping, you know, because of the situation there, no running water. People were like displaced in neighboring countries, and the situation was so bad. So the United Nations, they jumped in and they developed like camps or tents somewhere in Kenya, somewhere in, you know, I'm speaking of like refugees from Africa. But the case is the same in like Syria, you know, lately, you know, we have Syrian coming, and then in Burma and other places in Asia. So refugees, they don't come unless there is like an issue. And the next slide gonna give us more like an insight. Again, this is like a continuation of what I talked about earlier, but you just need to understand getting to know refugees in Nebraska, because we come with this status as a refugee or refugees, but we have things in common, yes, but we have a lot of differences. Even within the same African refugees or Sudanese refugees, we have, you know, some people go with tribes, some people go with subgroups, or like the dialects, like, you know, the language that they spoke or they use on a daily basis. You know, either that thing gonna unify us or that thing gonna make us like we are a little bit different, you know, somewhere. But we are refugees. Let's say, for example, Sudanese refugees, we have our, you know, let's put Sudan. We have Sudan now and South Sudan. It still is like confusing me because the country just got split in 2011. So in Sudan, we have Darfurian or Nubian or people from the north of Sudan. These people, they speak Arabic, and Arabic language unifies them, because of they just speak Arabic mostly. They can, they can do things together nicely without any challenges and all of that. And then people from South Sudan, where I am from, we have Nuer, Dinka, Asholi, Maban, and these people, we have them here in Nebraska. We have them in Lincoln, we have them in Omaha, we have them everywhere. But each and every person has a language or has a dialect. So like the other day, the teacher was looking for an interpreter and she sent me an email like, do you speak Sudanese? I like, what language? I back and forth, we exchange emails and she couldn't know. She's like, I need a Sudanese interpreter. It doesn't go that way. We have Nuer language, we have Dinka language, we have Arabic, we have Asholi, we have Maban, different languages. The case might be the same with Somali and Somali Bantu, because we have Somali Bantu, totally different. Somali, they speak Somali. Somali, they speak Somali or Swahili. And then Somali Bantu, they speak Mai. It's different, okay? The other group, let's say Burmese, based on my experience, because I don't just deal with Sudanese, South Sudanese, Somali, I also deal with Asian refugees. I have clients who are Asian refugees, and I have a staff, co-workers that Asian refugees. Most of the times, maybe they have a national language that they use or some cultural norms or beliefs that unify them or bring them together, or they do their work nicely without any issues or challenges or something like that. And the same, let's put it that way. When I say challenges or issues, not among the groups. It's like with service providers too. Let's say you have a client from Burma or from Nepal. It is easily to find somebody to interpret for them. But if you have a Nuer or a Dinka or somebody from South Sudan, and then we don't have a lot of interpreters who speak the Dinka or Nuer, you have to do 1, 2, 3 steps to get an interpreter. So yeah, it's a challenge. The next slide, please. Sorry. Okay, who is a refugee? A refugee, like me, I can just put an example of myself, but this is the definition put out by the United Nations back then. They said a person who flees his or her home country due to a well-founded fear of persecution on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. I put it just simple and very simple. I put it just somebody who got forced to leave the country. Like myself, I got forced to leave the country. I had no any choice. My husband had no any choice. My brother and I had no any choice. So we were forced to leave the country. The next slide, please. We have additional terminology because we have, as I said earlier, refugees and immigrants are different. So, but we have things in common. We have, we go through a lot of challenges, because you move or you leave your country of origin to go to another country. It is challenging. So an immigrant is somebody who moved to another country like forever or for a period of time, okay? And then migrant is a person who moved from economic or reasons like related to, maybe the economy in their country was not working for this person, for this family. They leave the country. And then we have asali or asalim. It's a person who has crossed an international border in search of protection, but their claim has not yet been determined. It takes time. Maybe we have some in America here now, they are like waiting. They are awaiting, their paperwork to be done. So that one is a little different from, being a refugee, because for example, when I came here and my husband, and the case is the same with other refugees, you get your social security, you come with a very good document called I-94. I-94 would let you get going with getting an apartment through the resettlement agency. They help you. I-94 is very powerful, but when you are a Sali or a asylum seeker, you don't have that. That is, and when you are an immigrant, either you come with your money, or somebody's helping you from back home, or somebody's helping you here. You come with a visa, so the case is different here and there. We like being a refugee. The next slide, please. Okay, here in I would put in America, because the resettlement of refugees is all across the country here. So let's say, for example, in Omaha or in Nebraska, we have Nebraska is like a place very attractive to people, to refugees, for many reasons. When I did my practicum for BSW, I did a research, I did a project, I did it at Lutheran Family Services. So I did a project like why people come to Nebraska, especially secondary migration. We have individuals, families, refugees coming here. We got it, but maybe the United Nations over there, where you are coming from another country, is sending you to Omaha, Nebraska. We got that. But my question was, why we have secondary migration? Why we have refugees moving from another state, let's say from Missouri or from Iowa to Nebraska, to Omaha? Why? So when I did my project, I did a survey. I went to a couple of home visits, different refugees. So what I got is like the jobs in Omaha, especially Omaha, the jobs, family members, they move here because they have a family member here. And then housing, much better here than where they come from in the Midwest or from Texas or elsewhere, better here. So people come here for three major reasons: either jobs, either rent, housing, better, or just moving here because you have a family member here. So we have three main resettlement agencies in Nebraska. We have Lutheran Family Services. I came through Lutheran Family Services in 2001. They did a wonderful job at that time, and they are still doing a wonderful job, except with COVID-19 now, they are like not like before. And then we have Refugee Empowerment Center. We used to call it Southern Sudan Community Association. It was founded by a Sudanese, and I used to be a board president of that agency. And then we have Catholic Charities in Lincoln. So these are the resettlement agencies that we have. The next slide, please. I hope I'm good with the time. Next. Okay, challenges. Okay, real quick. Being a refugee, as I mentioned before, you go through a lot of challenges. Just leaving your home country because you got forced to leave the country is not pleasant at all. So being in the camp, or just you have this homesickness. You still have some ties back home with family members back home. Sometimes you work in a neighboring country to send money back, to people you just left there in the war zone or something. And then staying in the camp also, you have to adapt, or you have to, to get used to, the culture, the environment, and all of that. It is huge. And then resettlement, the portion of it, is another, headache too, because you move from an area to an area, and then resettlement is like, it's like you're gonna be like permanently there, like it's gonna be where you're gonna stay, but you have to do some, some paperwork. You have to do 1, 2, 3 ABC. So it's a lot. So upon arrival here, when we arrive here, they expect you, or this is the expectation of the resettlement agency, that you have to be self-sufficient in 90 days, and then you have to work, and you have to, you have to be independent. it is very challenging. Then, you're gonna, again, the culture is different, the environment is different, the language is different. And all of this and all of new information is going on in your head. It is a lot of challenges. Then we have issues with the laws, work, health, education, because back home, everything is different. Educational system is different. Healthcare system is different. Legal system is different. As the presenter before me said, when they come here, the newcomers, when they come here, sometimes they don't even their address. It takes them time to memorize their address because they are not familiar with that. We don't have it back home. Back home, we don't have even addresses. You want to go to somebody's home, you ask people on the street, hey, I need to go to that neighborhood. And then they would just say, direct you by just, pointing, to the houses, that tall house with that black roof. Yeah, that's it. We don't go with like addresses. Maybe now back home things got changed, but my time, no. And then technology too. People come here with zero computer skills. And then you just get bumped with like, you have to use the computer to fill out your paperwork. It is really challenging. And sometimes it gives a refugee a headache or, some sort of like depression. Yeah, next slide, please. And then when we come here, another challenge is like, oh, wow, what a relief it is. We have this freedom, and then people would just interpret the freedom, wrongly, that I have my freedom to do anything. And because the resettlement agency would focus on like, yes, sometimes, on most of the times, there is like orientation of how you're going to live your life in a new country, in a new city, and all of that. But the portion of like, alcoholism and drug addiction and all this education, you don't get it when you come here, and you don't get it back home. Like for my case, I came from Egypt, and we went through a lot of orientations with my husband and all of that, but they never talked to us about like, all of this alcoholism, drugs, and things like that. Legal issues, they didn't talk to us about it. They talked to us like how we're gonna work and pay our bills and all of that. They didn't talk to us like how you discipline your child. When you come here, it's like, oh, people don't, you don't have to spank your child, because back home, this is what we do. We spank the child, or you just, some people, they say we beat up, the child, but it's not like beating up the child, but you just, you spank the child on a regular basis or daily basis, So here we come, and then the children, the teenagers, they get into like, some friendship, sometimes, getting around with the around crowd, and then shoplifting is one of the, the issues that our children run to when they come here. Parents, domestic violence, school attendance. The presenter before me talked about that. And then disorderly conduct, we see that a lot. Fighting sometimes at the school or in the neighborhood. And then traffic violation, mostly young adults. But yes, alcoholism and drug addiction, I just put it blank. You could see I put in the parentheses, children, parents, young adults, things like that. But alcoholism and drugs is like both. Like sometimes you find parents drinking or using drugs, and then the children too. So it's like, when it's there in the family, sometimes, the children, would go like the same way too. Yep. The next slide, please. Because of, social issues that I made mention of, then in 2011, I was actually hired for this, this agency hired me in 2011 for a different job, a different, role. But in April of 2011, and then, we established Refugee. It was actually a Refugee Juvenile Justice Advocate Program, that because the diversion office was reaching out to my supervisor, my former supervisor, and myself, like what we could do to help, because they used to call Sudanese, mostly Sudanese were here before everybody, mostly maybe Sudanese and Somali. So they used to call, I would just I would use Sudanese because, they were here and, I am from the same community, Sudanese community. So they used to call Sudanese for, like, let's say a family has a diversion or diversion appointment. And then they call them, they send them a letter, they don't show up. And it's been going on for years. And at the end of the day, the children would end up on probation, or sometimes, they get detained. So they reach out to me and I like, okay, I'm gonna use a technique. Maybe it might not work with everybody, but this is my technique of like home visitation. I am going to visit their homes. I am going to tell them you have an appointment. I am going to tell them you have to come to this appointment, otherwise your child there are some consequences. And then they said, okay, let's try that. So we started with the diversion, JAC, Juvenile Assessment Center, Douglas County, in 2011. In 2013, the probation, juvenile probation, heard about what we've been doing with diversion. Like, wow, let's reach out to Heartland Family Service. They reach out to us and like, okay, I will use home visitation. And then I use home visitation. It worked. And then a little by little, the child welfare, they're like, we need like a cultural ambassador program. I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? Yes, again, home visitation, visiting with the family. And not only that, we need to do team meetings. Sometimes you need to call the family to come for a team meeting, and then it worked. Then, the program keeps growing. And in 2019, which was last year, we got a prevention program where we help refugees with like refugee kids with like runaway behavior. So we call that program prevention. The next slide, please. Okay, again, there was a need in the community, and we started the program, and then, boom, in 2011, we did it. I think I covered this one, except the last thing I need to talk about is like the prevention program that we got in 2019, which is last year. We got a grant from Sherwood Foundation, and we established a prevention program for like refugee youth with like a runaway behavior. And this program is not just, let's put it this way. We get referrals from the school. We get referrals from Project Harmony, which is like child welfare entity. And then we get referrals from even family. Like a family can just send us a referral if the child has a behavior of skipping school. Because look, when the child is skipping school, this is what we have noticed. Then the child is like, the child is not going to school. Then the child is spending time with friends, or the child is not even at home. The child just left the house maybe for a day or two. And then if the child left the house for a day or two without any permission, from his parents or parent, then the child is like a runaway child. So this is how it works. So we've been helping, we've been like providing mentoring and counseling, in-home counseling, like therapy. We have an in-home counselor here that could help within the agency. But with COVID-19 now, the mentoring is not working like before, but we are still helping our families, and we get a lot of referrals. We thought we would just get like 50 per year, but we've been getting about 50 within 2-3 months. We've been getting 50 referrals. The same case with diversion and probation. Diversion, we put it like 25 cases per year, but before the year ended of 2011, we went above 25. And then with probation, we said 4 per year. Before the 2013 ended, we got up beyond that. So it is working. Yeah. The next slide, please. And then this is what we do. Simply, as I mentioned earlier, the home visitation technique, it was huge, because where we came from, the families wanted you to come and to see your face and then to talk to them face to face, not just to call them, because we don't have this culture of calling or sending letters. And I'm going to talk more about this later on. So because of the need and because the program been like growing, then we hired more staff. It was just me and then some on-call here and there. Then we, now lately we have like cultural ambassadors, we have staff, we call them refugee advocates. So we do the advocacy for the family, and most of us, we speak the language that our clients spoke. So which is, you don't get this in other agencies. What we are doing here is different. Most of my staff, or all of them, they speak 2 or 3 other languages, which is helping people in the community, refugees in the community, immigrants in the community that needed our help language-wise, cultural competent wise. We do that. So we teach our refugee parents, like the school system. The presenter before me, he talked about the school system. When they are new here, it's totally different. It's totally different. It's like you went to another planet. Let me put it that way. It's totally different. Okay, the next slide, please. Again, this is how it works. We conduct a home visit, we arrange appointments, we attend meetings, we try our best for our families to go to the hearing. We don't provide transportation, but if, let's say, if I have a probation family or probation client, and then they have a hearing, and then they don't have transportation, and then probation or diversion, they don't usually have transportation for them. What we would do, I would simply transport them there. But it's not always. It's like in some cases, because we don't want them to miss the hearing, and then later on they might be held accountable for that. So our role is like to advocate on behalf of the family. At the same time, we do like 3 ways. We assist the probation and diversion workers to understand the culture, to be mindful about other little things that might stand on the way when trying to assist our refugee family, and then to be thoughtful about the programs and what we should do to help this family. So it's like we do 2 ways. We are working here with the family, we are working here with the probation officer and the diversion worker. Okay, and with that being said, I do a lot of presentation, across the city, across the town, across the state, just, to let people know what we do and to work together as a team to help refugee families and immigrant families that are in desperate need of understanding the system. Next, please. And then again, I made mention about this one earlier. The calling a refugee family is not a good thing, and just sending a letter, it would not work. Maybe now with COVID-19, going to a home visit is not a must, but my program is like a must for me. I put it as a must for me and my staff. Otherwise, we cannot help them. We have to go for a home visit. Sending the letters, like using a book bag or a backpack, it would not, they would not even open that. Even if they open it, they would not know how to read it. It would not work. You have to send somebody who speaks their language and to go there, sit with them, talk to them, let them know. The next one, please. And then why this program is crucial? Because again, we support the family. Most of the times the service provider was like, what I'm gonna do with this family? I don't know how to help them. Sometimes teachers, they don't know. For example, as I said earlier, the teacher was looking for a Sudanese interpreter. Sudanese, if we put Sudanese as whole, we have about 600 languages in Sudan as whole. If you come down to South Sudan, we have 64 tribes. And within that 64 tribes, we have hundreds of dialects. So don't say a Sudanese language or a Sudanese or South Sudanese interpreter. You cannot find somebody like that to interpret for you. And then, as I said earlier, we have some expectations that, they would not work for our refugee families. They might work for everyone, but not them. So that is why, educating our probation officers who are not, I don't want to say they are not culturally competent. They might be culturally competent with, like, let's say, Latinos. They might be culturally competent, let's say, with Native Americans, but not with refugees or Sudanese or Somali. Or yeah, just, we are here to educate. We are here to coach our families, but at the same time, we are here to help service providers. The next slide, please. Yeah, these are just examples of, like, the schools back home. I was so privileged because my dad was an English teacher. He was in London, in England. He got education over there. And I was in the city. I never been in a school like this. But guess what? Most of us who are here, most of our people, refugees who are here, Sudanese, South Sudan, they went to school under the tree. Okay, now with parent-teacher conference, let's see, even the teacher has no car. The teacher has that bike. And then these people, these students under the tree, they walk like 5-6 miles to come here. How the teacher gonna call the parents for like a behavioral issues or for like a parent-teacher conference? Never. They don't even attempt to do that. So the teacher would take care. The good thing back home, though, our children, they behave good over there because they spank them in the school. Everybody's behaving good. And the teacher would, take care of that, and the principal. The same thing with the court. Here, this is a mindset. When we come here, we come with the mindset that when you go to court, it's like you are going to hell. It's the last resort. Back home is the last resort. You don't go to the, you don't take people to the court. No. It's like against the, against your beliefs, against your reputation. So when we go to court back home, it's like something major. And then we value marriage. When I take you, let's say you are my neighbor and I took you to court because, your dog came and, mess up my garden, or your pet, or your fence was like, leaning towards something, I attend Judge Judy and People's Court and all of that. A lot of craziness that people take people to court here in America, not in my country and not in Asia, because Africa refugees and Asia refugees, we have things in common. Our government, the way they run their things, and environment over there is like the same. So these people now, they are at the hearing under the tree. It's just because something major, huge happened. Something like somebody killed somebody. And it is rare back then. Maybe now, because of globalization and all of that, things change back home. But that was back then, during my mom's generation and my generation, that is just an elderly. It's not a judge. Somebody standing there is like an elderly, trying to, just to solve the problem. Yeah, so when our people go to court here, it's like, it's huge. We have to talk to them. It's like we are counseling them, and take a deep breath. It's okay. We have to coach through that for them to be in the court with their child who did something that that child should be in the front of the judge. The mom, dad should be there. We have to be there for them otherwise. Next, please. Again, because of the time, I don't know where is the, because of the time, I'm gonna go through this quickly. Again, when we help our families, they gain the experience of, how the system works here, the expectations of what to do, they get it, they get motivated, and they get involved in their children's life. Guess what? When we came here, Sudanese were the first, or maybe, Somali people were the first. How many children got detained and how many children got removed because the service providers would just jump into conclusion. How many children at the school were diagnosed wrongly with ADHD? And it wasn't like that, it was just because the culture, they were not ready. Our children, they would go to school not knowing, ABCs, they don't know alphabets, they don't know how to color, they don't know how to, the motor skills, how to cut. All of this, we don't have it back home. We don't do all of this with our children, preschooler. No, we don't do that back home. And we don't do it in the home here. So when your child goes to school and your child is behind, what do you think your child gonna do? Your child gonna run around, your child gonna play with other things while the teacher is, focusing on something else. And then most of the teachers back then, yes, they would jump into conclusion like, you know what, this child is hyper, this child might be retarded, this child might maybe, special education was put forth like crazy, and then they were diagnosed with the ADHD. These children now are on the street because the ADHD medicine messed them up, because the parents were not even ready to, to give them that medicine, to, keep an eye, to follow up with the doctor. They were just giving them the medicine for life. And it was not a good thing. And then another thing too, a stereotype. When you see a refugee family, it's like keeping up with like a probation officer and with a diversion worker. They're like, wow. Some workers would, service providers would like be wowing, the family, because back then they came across the family that would, to them, the family was not, the family didn't care, but it wasn't like that because nobody was there to help that family to understand the system like what we are doing now. Next, please. Yeah, again, we have now more families like, completing. When I say families, we are actually talking about the juveniles. They are, finishing probation diversion successfully. And then there is knowledge of how, to work with refugee families and all of that. More resources available now. They would know through us. You have resources you could use, and then we are saving money. The state is saving money because back then they used to detain them. The detention is not, we all know, it costs money. It's not free. And then now that we have parent-teacher conferences being attended by the parents, we have school attendance. he just showed you how it it changes. Back then, a lot of issues with like attending schools, but now because we are doing the advocacy and we are teaching and coaching, it is helping. And then instead of complaining about removing, my child got removed, we got that a lot. When I went to social work, everybody in the community like, don't go to that field because social workers, they remove our children. I like, no. Let me go in there and understand, And if I just went with the flow, like what our people were saying, I would be afraid. Like social workers, they remove our children. But now that I'm helping, I'm like, wow, they got the point now. So the next slide, please. At the time, sorry. Again, the community, we have like a peace of mind now, more than like back then. Back then it was a headache. We were new here. And I always put it, African refugees, we were like John the Baptist. Sorry, those who don't believe in Bible or never knew or heard about John the Baptist. We were like John the Baptist for the Asian refugees because we were there. We came first, nobody understood us, and it was challenging to service providers, and we tried our best. And then when Asian refugees started to come from Burma and other places, Thailand and other places, 2007, 2008, things were better. And we have better community now. We are working together, Asian, African Americans, Latinos, other populations, we are working together for better community. So the community is coming together for like, and we are helping our children because we know these children are like leaders of tomorrow. Next, please. Okay, and then in the social work, we have micro and macro. Always we talk about that. So what we could do, after initially meeting with the family, you can just, you cannot just call them, you have to meet with them. We talked about that, like a home visitation, or find a place where you can meet with them, maybe in the library, they will come to you, maybe in your office, maybe, but try to meet with them face to face. And then when you go to their home, don't just show up and then you need to, to make an appointment. And then it's not like that. At the home visit too, introduce yourself and then your program, and then go to the business. Don't just come and say, hey, I'm here because you have a hearing tomorrow. I need to go to the hearing. I'm here just for a half hour because my supervisor said I should be here for a half hour, and that's it. Bye, bye, bye. It will not work, you know. Always, I tell service providers, when working with a refugee, it's like time consuming, energy consuming, and sometimes money consuming, because you're gonna drive to their home. Maybe they live out of the city. You're gonna drive, you're gonna pour gas. That is money. Okay. And then accept, you know, all of us, you know, professionals, social workers, probation officers, we were told when we went for the training and the field, and you know, we don't take food or gifts from our clients. But when you go to a home visit, you are visiting a refugee family, they give you something to eat, maybe most of the time, sometimes fruits, sometimes a banana. You can take it, and if you don't want it, just nicely just say, oh, like for my case, sometimes I am picky about what I eat. I would tell them I am pre-diabetic, although I'm not a pre-diabetic, but I just tell them. So I lie and I pray to God at the end. It's just because I don't want them to feel offended. Yes. The next slide, please. And then again, the micro level, what we could do, you know, be present, meeting time, when if there is a hearing, people like us, we go to the hearing. I go to the hearing sometimes, although I would just go and sit over there in the back, just to support the client, to support the family. And then again, meeting at home instead in the office. Nowadays with COVID-19, it's not working like before. Most, you know, you have, you know, to know this. Not all refugees are like open-minded and like, you know, they are open-minded, but the trust, sometimes they trust you to the point that they can just sign the paper, especially those from Burma. You know, back then, maybe now things change a little bit, but you just come with paperwork. They don't even, you know, they would just, they are quick to sign the paper. So don't take advantage of that, or, you know, just, you know, try to explain the paper, try to find an interpreter to explain it to them before they sign the paper. Yeah, and, you know, make the form or the paper like with basic, simple English, so that the interpreter also should just understand the, you know, the terms without no struggles. Next, please. Again, this is the same thing continuing with the micro. Try to learn some phrases, like, you know, like how to say hi or things like that. You don't have to learn everything. Like myself, how many times I try to learn some, you know, phrases or some, you know, words in Korean, but I would forget. But if I have a home visit that day, I would ask my coworker to give me like how you say bye-bye, how you say hi. And then I memorize it. It's not an easy job to learn another language, even a phrase or a word. Next, please. And then what we could do in a macro level, we have a lot of recommendations. For example, for school and probation, a lot of recommendation for children to, you know, the family to do, because they just, because of their children being your, you know, you are, you know, providing services to their children, a lot of recommendation. So again, we need interpreters, we need to utilize the interpreters. We need to make sure we are getting the message to them in a way that they would not like come back to you and say, hey, we didn't get it. And then we don't have with the court. The court is better now, you know, maybe with a lot of advocacy, somebody like me and other people did. You know, we used to have issues with like no interpreters in the court. Sometimes the family would go, for example, my one of my clients before got into a car accident, came to the hearing, and then the interpreter was not there. And then at the end of the day, the case was, you know, closed unsuccessful. But if I go back to this case, it's like the interpreter was not there for a couple of times. But at the end of the day, they closed the case as the family was not attending the hearing. Anyways, it happens. So, but now it's better. Next. Okay, what we're gonna do as a micro level, you know, this is what we have seen back then. Maybe the case is different now. when you have a child, a refugee child on probation, and then within 2 weeks or so, or a month, another probation officer is assigned to this family, or reassign, reassign, and then the family gonna be confused. Me, myself, I would be confused because you are not, it is hard to follow up or to do the job, like with a different probation officer coming in, another probation officer leaving. It was a problem. It was an issue. But we were there for the family to let them know, you know what, this is their policy. This is how this is how they operate. So we have just to take a deep breath and just try to follow, to comply. Transportation issue was a huge barrier. Again, as I said earlier, we don't provide transportation. But what we do, if there is any appointment, a very important appointment, like there is an IDI, I believe, or how do they call it, at the probation? We take them there on the hearing. Next, please. I don't think we're gonna watch that video because of the time. Let's skip it. So for the conclusion, this is how I put it. This is from me. So I put it this way. I say refugees or refugee people are part of this community. They are becoming citizens to cast their votes, sending their children to schools, working at different companies, paying taxes, buying homes, and owning businesses. We cannot better our community as whole without helping our refugee people and their communities to succeed. Yeah, just leave you with this. Sorry, I talk a lot. Any questions, any comments, let me know. And my contacts are over there at the end of the slides. And then feel free to request, or I believe they're gonna share it. I don't care. You guys can get my presentation. If it's gonna help you in your field, yes, get the handout, no problem. Yes. Any questions?
Elizabeth, you had one response that said, thank you. This was a great information and great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. From me, thank you for the work you're doing. Amazing stuff. And we're waiting on some questions, and I don't see any yet. Kind of hold off and kind of see if something pops up, okay?
Okay.
Again, if anybody has any questions for either one of us, just let us know. We'll hang out here for about 10 minutes or so. And then at that time, we'll kind of leave the session, and you have all of Elizabeth's contact information. I've posted my email up on the chat there. So if anybody needs that, they can send us questions. But we're always willing to get that information to you. I'm going to read the ones that they have for you, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Your strength is inspirational, my sister. I really liked the tree school example of the differences. Thank you. That was from Michelle. Laura said, thank you, great information, and love your passion for your work. And I agree.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Lots of likes, lots of likes. Angela said, thank you for sharing. You have like 9, 10, 11, 12 likes. So good.
Wow.
Good work.
Yeah. Thank you.
They're knocking it. Deborah said, thank you both for the work you do and the great presentations. So thank you. Let's see if we get any more coming up. I loved your tree example as well. I took a picture of it. Denise said, great job, both of you. So another positive.
Thank you.
Jana said, thank you for all you do, Elizabeth. Wow. And I agree with that.
Thank you to them too for attending this.
We do have one question. Michelle asked, I'm curious, would male refugees have anything different to add, i.e. from a father perspective? Do you see any side of that?
Like a male refugee?
Yep. Would a male refugee have anything different to add, like from a father's perspective, rather than from, what would be your thought on that?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends. It's a good question. Yeah, because where we came from, like females and males, it's like even they have a barrier. Well, in the same house, there is a barrier. Like I grew up in a Muslim country, then women should be that way and men should be that way. So yes, the perspective is different, the beliefs, even, parenting,
Yep.
dad, mom, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that is a good point. Yep.
That is a good question, because we see the same thing here at school.
Yes. Yep.
Males and females definitely come from different areas. So
Exactly.
Pauline has a question. Are services offered to the parents, such as learning English? Often in Omaha, the children are translating for their parents. Do you know of any services that are provided where they're learning the language?
Yes. Sometimes, yeah, some service providers they do that. They use children, which is wrong, because each and every agency now they have money for to hire an interpreter or to get an interpreter, or they have online language services. But some service providers just want the child is like speaking English fluently. They would just go with the child, which is wrong. Some are still doing it. It's wrong. I always correct them. I'm not advocating on myself or for myself or for me, for you to hire me, because people might think I just need money. I just need people to use me to get money. No, I tell them it's against the law. It's against, don't use the child. It's not an appropriate thing to do.
I agree with you on that one too. So, let's wait and see if we have any other ones coming up. Great
Okay.
questions. Those are great questions.
Yes, I agree.
Right. Nothing coming up at the moment.
Okay.
Let's see. We had 55 people in there with us, Elizabeth. That's pretty.
Ooh. Hey. Wow.
Yeah, pretty
It's a good turnout. A good turnout. Yeah.
Oh, that is good. Let's keep seeing here real quick. All right, nothing yet. I'm gonna put you on mute, so I have somebody check. I'm in my door here, or in my room.
Okay.
Oh, we have one. Jenny posted. She said the next session begins at 12 o'clock.
Oh.
Partnering to keep kids in school and out of court. And breakout room 2 is Native, missing women and children. And Denise Krautzel also mentioned that Skylar does offer adult basic language skills as well as based program at the Cargill Learning Center. So we do offer some of those services for
Beautiful.
our families.
Good.
All right, I think we have. Okay, I'm going to put you on mute for just a little bit. We'll wait and see if we get a couple more questions, Elizabeth.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, we have one more. How old are the cultural ambassadors do you use in high schools with high school students? The cultural ambassadors, how old are they?
How old are the students or cultural ambassadors?
It says, how old are the cultural ambassadors that you use in the high school?
They're 19 and older. Cultural ambassadors, they should be 18, 19 and older. Like my staff, I don't even have 19, 20 something, 30. Yeah. My cultural ambassadors, co-workers, yeah, they are adults.
Okay. And we will utilize some of our past students for certain things here at our school that have graduated and have come back. So we do use some 19 and 20-year-olds to help with students or help translate some days or during parent-teacher conferences and those things. So
yeah.
Cultural ambassadors that you're using. But
yes.
Said thank you for the answer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we got about 3.5 minutes here. And we'll see if we
okay. Okay. And I apologize. The video is great. Maybe next time, but because of the time, yeah, there is a video, Cultural Shock. It is an amazing video for lost boys. Lost boys are like Sudanese who came here a long time ago. Like they were like young.
Yep.
Because of the war, they were labeled as lost boys. So yeah,
I believe I've seen that video, and it is a powerful, powerful video. So.
Yeah.
All right, nothing quite yet. I'm going to put you on mute. I have a student.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. Feel free to navigate back to the main room for some trivia at 11:45. Thank you guys both so much.
Yeah,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice work. It was
Thanks.
great.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Yeah.